Ramon, you might remember that film, Braveheart, right? Where Braveheart, William Wallace goes to the original general of the English army and he says, I'm here to negotiate. And then he lists off a bunch of negotiation points that are just impossible for anybody to agree. Because what we're seeing with the IFP is pretty much the same thing.
Before we let you leave, your commander must cross that field, present himself before this army, put his head between his legs, and kiss his own arse.
News out of KZN, of course, is that the ANC is going to lose KwaZulu-Natal. But the IFP is surging ahead. The DA is surging ahead in the province. Now the IFP have come out to say, ANC, if you don't work with us, we have a few non-negotiables to discuss.
Well, the first thing they've asked for is the ANC to engage in a reconciliation project. That's because the ANC have been killing the IFP in record numbers since the dawn of democracy.
And let us not forget, the ANC had an active role in killing members of the IFP during the People's War. We've made many videos on the People's War. It has never been reconciled. And I think this is also an element of that reconciliation project. Let us not forget, the IFP is Zulu self-determination first, non-racialism second. So they're actually sort of the conservative black party, one that we support much more, of course, than the ANC. So one of their demands as well is for the ANC to admit that they perpetuated violence against Inkatha during the apartheid days. And this is a fact. But the ANC has always said the IFP were the stooges of the apartheid government.
Fact check us. Please go read Anthea Jeffrey's book called The People's War. And it's detailed in great volumes there exactly what exactly occurred against the IFP. Ramon, I come from the Zulu province, and I recall as a kid the amounts of violence that was perpetrated against the IFP by the ANC. Like anybody who came from there, it was just a known fact, which is exactly why they want the ANC to apologize for basically making it out that as if Buthelezi was basically a collaborator of apartheid.
Yeah, and that's basically one of the strongest propaganda campaigns the ANC has ever run. To say that Buthelezi, despite being the most popular black leader in apartheid South Africa, was somehow an apartheid collaborator. On the contrary, Buthelezi wanted a free, democratic South Africa without the socialism. And don't take my word for it, I actually read his book in his own words, his vision for South Africa. Capitalism, democracy, non-racialism, and no socialism. But of course, the ANC was motivated by the National Democratic Revolution, so anyone, black or white, against the revolution was immediately deemed to be a collaborator for apartheid, even when it wasn't true.
Yeah, but unfortunately, one of the inconvenient facts of the ANC is that between the ANC and the IFP during the apartheid era, according to the local population, the IFP were more popular. And had the IFP actually run against the ANC, there's actually a really good chance the IFP would have won. The problem is it would have split the black vote. And so in order to avoid splitting the black vote and ensuring the end of apartheid, the IFP kind of took a back stance and allowed the ANC to run the show. In our opinion, that was the wrong call, because had we had an IFP government, South Africa would look very different today, which is probably why another order that the IFP has asked is that they admit that the ANC sent their people to the Bantustan states to basically run that during apartheid, basically taking their leaders and trying to get them out of the public eye so that the ANC could be the only one in town with which to negotiate.
And they absolutely did do that. So Buthelezi was asked by the ANC to become the Prime Minister of the Bantustan of the Zulus back in the day. Let's see if they will admit to that. I somehow have my doubts. But these are just sort of Zulu issues. So now we get to the substantive points of what the IFP actually want. They want the ANC to explain to voters why the ANC should be brought back after being rejected by the voters. Now, this is an interesting point, Byron, because all the other points are really about we are not the enemy of the ANC. You must tell the truth about the IFP. But now they are asking the ANC to sort of come and account for being relatively retarded in governance.
Yeah, this one is actually really important because obviously the first points are all about the propaganda war raised against the IFP. But this point here is actually a very good point, and it's something that maybe the DA should really think about. If you partner with the ANC, you need to explain to your voters, in order to not put you into oblivion and make you irrelevant at the next elections, exactly why you did this deal. because the ANC aren't exactly popular, hence they didn't get the popular vote. So putting them back into power by partnering with them, well, that's not going to look good to your constituents. So the IFP have come out and rightly said, explain to our voters why you will do this. And maybe a key point to this, the final point that the IFP asks, is that the ANC demonstrate that it's actually serious about implementing the recommendations of the Zondo Commission. The problem, though, was, Ramon, it basically destroys the National Democratic Revolution.
Essentially, what the IFP is saying is ANC will work with you if you stop being the ANC, if you stop lying about your past, if you stop with cater deployment, if you stop with corruption, if you are non-racist, if you do explain yourselves very well why the IFP will benefit from being in a coalition with you, then maybe we can work together in KZN. The IFP has set an impossible task for the ANC to actually complete. And this is excellent negotiation, because all the points we mentioned are reasonable points. It's not about the same ideology or agreeing on X, Y, Z about the state. It's just about being honest with the voters. So therefore, to me, the IFP are setting such a high standard for the ANC that no doubt they will generally fail, and therefore the ANC may not be in power in KZN come 2024.
Excellent negotiation strategies, which is also why nobody can then accuse the IFP of not actually working for the best of the country and the best of their people. They said, if you want to get us into power, these are our terms. As William Wallace once said.
Your commando must cross that field, present himself before this army, put his head between his legs, and kiss his own arse.